We're back. Good morning and welcome back to the Morning Connection. We're enjoying the sunshine and the vibrant colors of the outdoors. It's just so different from being in studio, and every Thursday morning I marvel at it. But before we left you on the break, Percy and I were talking about the Windrush, um, and I think their current the trauma of finding that years later it's not exactly what it was cracked up to be or what you thought it was. And I'm here reflecting out loud with Percival that it may well be that we misunderstood the invitation.
But you miss, an
I'm saying
invitation is an
we.
invitation.
Yes, but sometimes you're invited to serve and you think you're a guest.
Yeah, but what has come?
So they were invited to serve. They
Yeah.
thought they were guests in the country. But when I look at it, Percival, and I'm reading the account as shared, this is the recollection of Major Keith. What's his Baron? Let me call the names right. Anyway, Baron Baker, the personalities of the day who were a part of the reception party. When they arrived, and this is always a clear sign that you're not a guest. A guest has a room prepared. A guest has provisions made for their comfort. When the people on the Windrush arrived in England, they had no place to stay. Who invites somebody to their country and don't consider that they need to sleep somewhere and wash them face and comb their hair and get a meal?
It was, and the truth is, it was males and females.
Yes.
The families came over.
Families, they're showing you young children dressed up in their little bonnets and
Yeah.
no.
Really very
If you
part of the
arrive,
empire.
so let's set some rules. You remember we had done this thing one time. What was it again? Your it was off the you're a redneck if.
Oh,
I don't remember what it was.
let's not
we
go back.
and I
I
were
remember
doing.
yes, that was early in the program.
So now you have to distinguish between invited guest, hired help, or maybe even unpaid help. You are an invited guest if, when you arrive at your destination,
There's room
there
and
is a
board waiting
reception
for you
party
with-
and there's room and board
There's a hot
waiting
cup of,
for you, a hot cup of
tea.
tea, a cold towel to
Mop your brow.
yes, and your children
Are taken care of.
are taken care of.
And you're this is where you're staying for the time that you're here.
You mean
So when you do
If you arrive-
otherwise, you know you have a problem.
if you arrive as in answer to an invitation and there's no place for you to sleep or stay, you have a problem. So 1948, 22nd of June, the people arrive. No place for them to stay.
And Baron Baker say, oh no,
Many of the migrants who landed on June 22, 1948 had nowhere to live. And so the colonial office was there to help through a Baron Baker, who was himself a World War II RAF serviceman. He took on the responsibility of arranging accommodation at the Clapham South Deep Shelter in London. What was this place? This place was housing. It had been used to house Italian and German prisoners of war. It really was a jail.
yeah.
It was a prison. Prisoners of war were housed in this location, and our Windrush ancestors had to beg to stay in this renovated prison. A request was made for this place to be opened up for the people on the Windrush, and it was not readily acceded to. The man who asked said they had a long discussion about the situation. Finally, I told Major Keith I was going on board the Windrush that night. I added, if a telegram were not sent to me to say the shelter was open, I would tell the passengers on the ship that none of them should disembark until the assurance was received. So you see, their journey started with a fight.
We're always fighting.
Yeah, because white people invite you to things and you think
They
you're a
don't make
guest, but you're a
provision.
help.
But listen to
You're the
this.
help.
So here it is, and this is a wonderful picture.
Let me see that wonderful picture. Show me.
These are the people who came. So the man them look dapper.
Just listen to me.
So it's not like them.
And fighting to go sleep in a prison
Yes.
on their first night in the UK. Listen to me. I would say from that point it would be going downhill.
But here it is 75 years since His Majesty HMT Empire Windrush docked in Tilbury, Essex on the 22nd of June 1948, carrying passengers from the Caribbean to fill labor shortages in the UK. Yes.
They were hired help. Oh, Jesus.
And this is what they end up becoming. People from across the then British Empire were encouraged to move to the UK to help with post-war labor shortages and rebuild its battered economy. Many of those who came became manual workers, drivers, cleaners, and nurses in the newly established National Health Scheme. So this guy, who became a postman, after in his 20 years, he became a campaigner. His name was Sam Beaver King. And he was the first black mayor of Southwark. He established a program for migrants to buy homes in the UK and co-founded the country's first Caribbean-style carnival, a precursor to the Notting Hill Carnival. So he was a fighter, man. Wow.
Earl Brown is asking, did they renovate? I'm calling it the newly renovated prison because I cannot imagine. But who knows, Earl? Possibly it was not done. So they arrived with a struggle on their hands. No surprise what is happening, that they then tried to expel them, because if you hire someone to do a job, when the job is done, you expect them to go back home. And you expect them to be satisfied with whatever pay they earned while they were doing the job. So it is Windrush. I tell you, my parents didn't answer the call, or grandparents.
But
But one or two of my moms. My mom has a brother.
Who went?
She has a brother who went. I think so. Yeah, because and when I go to London, when I meet them in England, they live in Birmingham. And I was in London for some case. Yeah, I went to the Privy Council and I took a couple of days and visited with them. And I had a lovely time with them, but what I saw was they're even more traumatized by the colonial experience than those who stayed close to the plantation. The whole, you see this, like this natural hair thing that is all the rage now. They were there before because they actually saw closer ties to Jamaica as being an expression of their freedom. So the same hairstyle that they were sporting in Jamaica, they continued it. They clung, I would say rabidly to the accent and the cultural expressions and the food and so on. And in many ways, they just tried to recreate their Jamaican life in a new country because they did not ever feel as if they were a part of it. And a lot of the racism and the talk of racism was different from how it's conducted in America, because I've had friends speak of racism in America. It's not the same. They don't use the same language to discuss it as they do in England. And I think England, my English cousins had a different kind of militancy about them. I think it's like maybe that horrible Windrush reception. They always knew that they were not welcome. Whereas Americans address it in a different way. Americans address racism as an attack against their entitlement.
Okay.
My friends, my family in England never believed they were ever entitled.
That was never, they never,
yeah.
That is Austrian, they never believed that.
Yeah, they never felt like they were entitled. And so the fight is from a different place. Whereas in America, it's like, I'm a citizen of this country and I have rights and you're denying me. It was just a different.
But listen to this, just a little bit of background to why was a Windrush scandal. The 1971 Immigration Act gave Commonwealth citizens living in the UK indefinite leave to remain, the permanent right to live and work in the UK. This included the Windrush generation, that's why they were called, but also people from other former British colonies in South Asia and Africa. But listen to this. However, in April 2018, it emerged that the UK Home Office had kept no records of those granted permission to stay and had not issued the paperwork they needed to confirm their status. This is what they did.
So they're like undocumented.
Right. It also
aliens.
had destroyed landing cards belonging to Windrush migrants in 2010. So it really was a scandal. The people had them papers and
they're like undocumented.
And
how did you get here? But the truth is, that really should have been a storm in a teacup, because a person of a certain age who'd been there for a period of time could only have got there through certain known avenues. Those were not the days of great stowaways.
No, it was not like now what you have people stowing away in planes and
come
trying
under
to cross
fake
border
and fake documentation and so on.
No.
Didn't have that. So if you were there by reason of, in a certain time period, they could easily reconstruct that, okay, and step up and deal with it. But I guess I love it when our Father in heaven expose the heartless and thoughtless behavior of people. So you get to deal with it for what it is.
Yeah.
Meaning you address it as an issue of the heart, not as an immigration problem or a document retrievals problem. Because that's not what it is. It was not an administrative glitch. It was people who just were uncaring.
That's what it was. It was something in terms of heart. Because nobody. Yeah. And interestingly, they say in this report that we're looking at, 83 people were deported wrongly. So they because of the foolishness. So Theresa May, thank God, she apologized and did something on a compensation scheme that was established. And everything that the commission...
Out of which now people are struggling to get their money.
Can you imagine that? No, sir. And then in 2023, the current Home Secretary, that's Suella Braverman, announced the Home Office was dropping 3 of the commitments. So in 2020, they did 30 recommendations, and now they are dropping 3 of the commitments. Oh boy.
Hey, how different is it from 1948 when the people arrived with no place to stay and had to threaten to take over the ship? Because basically that's what you do now. When you say, I'm not disembarking, if you say I'm not disembarking unless you notify me of my lodgings, you are taking control of the ship. Because what can the ship do when its cargo will not leave? So that was the threat issued in 1948, which allowed them to find lodgings. So it began. So it is ending.
But you're correct. You are saying now 15,000 people would be eligible, but the Home Affairs Committee of the scheme itself had become a further trauma for those eligible. Can you imagine that? So then freed up.
All right. We have the break signal.
Oh, Lord. Oh, geez.
7:32. Good morning and welcome back to the Morning Connection. It's Free Flowing Thursday, and we are here on location at the beautiful Ligony Clubs, nestled in the heart of New Kingston, Jamaica. Can you believe there is a tropical storm brewing out at sea,
Again, a different one.
threatening? Isn't it, Brett?
Brett, but I thought it had
Brett
dissipated.
has been fully dissipated.
It was.
When you look at today, you cannot imagine that there is anything unpleasant bearing down on Jamaica. So yes, it must have dissipated. And that's the point I was going to make. Yesterday, I remember you were tracking and, giving me the estimated time for landfall. It was supposed to be on this weekend, which, yeah, but here we are. Last night, I was in a meeting with one person was participating from Oklahoma. And in her community, she said when you walk around, trees were lying around like matchsticks, homes destroyed. They had had a vicious storm pass through, and for about 5 days after.
You mean a tornado?
No, the tornado hit Mississippi next door.
Okay, but
but they had a storm, water, wind, and trees went down. Power was out for 5 days. She herself, she had no power. I think it started Sunday. Sunday it was in high gear on Sunday, and she received in Oklahoma. Power was returned in her community the day before.
Okay.
Tuesday night.
Her house is still standing.
Tuesday night, house still standing. I mean, you couldn't tell that she had been going through this, but it came up because we had a service on Sunday which she missed, and she was explaining why she missed it, because the power went out about an hour or so before the service started, and power was only restored on Tuesday 8 p.m. around 8 p.m. and there were other homes in her area which power hadn't been restored. She could still hear generators running in some parts of our community. Terrible to hear her describe it. You're going through, not even driving through, you're walking through, and trees are in splinters on the road.
Have you ever seen the cartoon where it's a tornado going through, and what it does? It's a cartoon, actually.
Yes, just pick up everything and carrying it.
It picks up everything, but when it is finished, you see it's the tree that was a tree before. What the tornado does is
matchsticks,
and it becomes matchsticks. So you see it stacks up.
Yes, yeah.
I find those things kind of fascinating when I'm watching cartoons.
Yeah,
I watch cartoons. You watch cartoons?
And yes, but it's fascinating to us because it's foreign to our experience. We don't get that kind of activity, even though we have such a long period of the hurricane season.
Yeah.
But then she said by the time they were, sort of pouring over the pieces, a family member called to say, this is what happened in Mississippi. A tornado had moved through, and yes, she was like, just be happy with what you have there, because it got worse on the other side. So
she had a storm.
Kudos to JPS, who was here last week talking about their protocol and preparation. But I was saying, boy, Jamaica has been so blessed with the possibility of those kind of weather events. And somehow we don't get nearly as many of them as could happen. You know, but being exposed to the constructions, the building systems in the US, I mean, I can understand why houses get picked up and flung around like, paper. So when I see them putting up their paper houses in record time,
the way that they do it is,
and they look so beautiful.
Yeah, but when
the weather passed through, different experience.
And you notice if you what I'm seeing emerging as you would go to the States, like I remember going to Florida, and I said, oh, this looks so much like Jamaica. And the reality was, in that part of the world, they don't make houses. They have a mixture of houses. So we have concrete, where their houses are, what do you call it? You see a frame going up, and then you see the putting on the drywall, and it looks so lovely. But when the wind takes that, it goes, man.
Paper.
It goes, it goes, it goes. I, 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 I wanted to go back to a point that I was making in the break. You were talking about the laws of the
The Medes
Medes
and
and the
Persians.
Persians, and the fact that they have agreed this is what we do, this is the policy in regards to how we do things, and nobody can just change it. Not even the king has the power to change it. And I like that principle, because I think if we were to adopt a similar principle after we have agreed and set something in train, we need to allow for the policy, the principle to be implemented over a period of time such that we can reap the fruits of it. I think one of the challenges we have faced and we continue to face as a country is that some things that we should be agreed about, things like education, things like healthcare, things like how we are going to be dealing with the security elements and how they impact on each other. It seems, even with transportation, because somebody raised the point, I think not yesterday, the day before, in terms of the importance of train. He was commenting on the fact that if you look at countries that are doing well, the government invests in transport in terms of a train system that works. So if we were to adopt that principle, laws and me, put a policy in place, a prime minister can't come in and at his fancy, or some cabinet minister, to say, hey, let us change this. I'm not saying you must tinker in terms of implementation, but if you have agreed that education is something that will move our country forward in terms of the flourishing and what we need to see happening, let's do it. Let's invest in early childhood, because you have to put the money there instead of at the back end. So that is why I found the policy, the new stated, I don't know if it's a policy or a whim or whatever you call it, that they're going to be putting, what did the minister say? Putting STEM is not STEM, vocational at the primary school level. And I say, how does that work? And schools don't have even sufficient things to keep the school going. They're going to invest
Introduce a
in
new element. Yeah.
So let the laws and the Mede and the Persian principle work in government around key areas that we can move forward. I found that I just pulled that from what you were saying.
Yeah.
And I think it would help.
But you see, and as you were speaking, the permanence of the laws of the Medes and Persians has always been a source of study for me. I'm drawn to it. I'm drawn to it because it speaks to issues of sovereignty, the rule of law, and it speaks to intergenerational continuity, which always brings up for me issues of honor. So I was writing a little note as I listened to you. I said, if we honored our elders, we wouldn't break a vow made to them. When someone says, take care of this for me, or when I'm gone, make sure so and so, and you say yes, you respect it. But I started to think back to, how did it come about that one king who is sovereign said, I will continue the work of my predecessor in office? My own sovereignty is not separate and distinct from the sovereignty of my father.
Correct.
I will continue his work. I do not regard it as any loss of authority or any unpalatable submission to allow my father's work to be continued through me. Of course, the first thing would be to regard your father's work as being of excellent character and quality. That would be the first thing, because you would not want to continue something that is bad. You would seek to improve on it, build on it. But if you could capture the spirit of what a person is seeking to do, then that can move from one generation to the next. We have had a problem, as you said, moving from one political administration to another. Even though everything is called government,
Yeah.
when you step into government, you lose your party colorations and you are supposed to act as government. Still, when one administration, a new administration enters, they spend the first 2 years shifting up everything that the predecessor in office did and seeking to embarrass, to
Witch hunt.
yes, and sometimes just to disparage the work of your predecessor in office. Absolutely no respect for the office itself. How can we get that to end?
And that to me is something that as a people, as people who call Jamaica home, we have to insist. We're talking about giving job descriptions for our MPs. It should be a job description for any government that you put in. If you are there to serve the people, and if you are there to serve the people, if there is something that we have agreed that this is in the best interest of the majority of our Jamaicans, you can willingly change it because, okay, you're getting pressure from somebody external. You spoke about sovereignty. You can't change it because some powerful lobby group just thinking about themselves pushing for it. It has to be for the good of Jamaicans. You govern for the good of Jamaicans. You are a steward of what is good and noble and right for all Jamaicans. But what we keep getting is persons who are on a personal rump.
Ooh, that's a new one.
Personal rump.
A PR.
Yes. On to say, oh, this is what I have done. And this is why a personal rump, or caper. That's, remember you used the word caper?
Yes, that
Personal
was for
caper that people would.
that was for the Commonwealth caper. But it is flexible.
Yeah, but I'm just saying, no,
yeah,
man.
yeah. Selfish ambition.
And
The
that is-
selflessness is not there. That's why the first principle in the 7 principles of public life that the Integrity Commission's Code of Conduct asserts is selflessness.
Right.
That way, the personal capers, romps, frolics, whatever name they want to go by, would be left in the car park. You wouldn't take it into the office with you.
You recognize the dignity of the office.
But you know, the point you're making now about using this opportunity to set parameters of accountability for parliamentarians is a part of the process. What you said there, well said. The other piece of it, of course, is arriving at the vision. The vision is what makes the law of the Medes and Persian work. A vision clearly articulated, represented in the decrees and the orders that are issued, carried out, documented by people who have the competence to make a good record of it. You know that this nation is known for XYZ, and no matter who comes to rule the nation, they will continue in a similar vein. Unless something changes. When something changes that requires you to take a different tack, you go back through the same process of creating the new vision, if it is to be a new vision. But you know what? I think at the national level, all nations want to create a vibrant, diverse economy that can meet the needs of their people and have a social component to it that allows for persons to move through the different groups and classes without hindrance. And any such society would make special provisions for children, for the vulnerable, children, the elderly, and for the persons with disabilities. That's the broad vision. So you're not likely to find a new group coming and say, no, 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 we don't want to do anything for children. We are into animals, pets. That's our focus. You're not likely to find that. So at the top level, the
Yes.
vision ought not to be something that is changing too widely. And then at the micro level now, you have your different actors who engage the specialists and the technical folks who can build out a plan. Well, how are we going to create this diverse economy? What are the elements of it? How do we choose them? If something is flagging, how do we build up something else? How do we replace it? I think yesterday someone was talking about manufacturing in Jamaica. The fact that, lamenting the fact that Jamaica does not have a vibrant manufacturing industry anymore. We used to, and the truth of the matter is, we can still do so. But what is required to invest in it, to set it up, to administer it? Who is going to do that?
And can we agree on it?
And
can we agree?
Can we be in agreement on it?
So because another thing,
Because if we're in agreement on it, Percival, then the financial sector would be given a framework in which to push resources towards building the infrastructure for manufacturing. The colleges of learning and training, institutions of education and training, would be given a framework to teach, train, produce the skilled hands to carry that body of work, and so on and so forth. Those who are managing land and the resources, land resources, would know to have whatever is needed, designated areas for this manufacturing industry to boom. And at any time we can get up and do it. But if we do it and we don't have the stability of the Medes and the Persians, rest assured that in 5 years' time, somebody is going to come and say, manufacturing looked good, but that's really for another time and place. We feel that tourism is it. Or we feel that mining and bauxite mining is where you find that persons come in and begin to shift. Many years ago, when I served in an advisory capacity, it was agreed, government policy, that Jamaica would have a single regulator for
telecommunications.
Not just telecommunications. It was rebranded as information technology. It was rebranded as ICTs, information communication technologies, following the trend worldwide. This was from like 2006. Here we are in 2023. We are still paying for Broadcasting Commission, Spectrum Management Authority, OUR, and if I'm not
OUR
sure,
was a major one. Some Spectrum
Spectrum has its own authority. Broadcasting has its own, and telecoms has its own. We are still paying to keep at least three distinct
which is ICT.
agencies on our budget, when we had agreed from about 2006, 2007, that we would have a single regulator so that we could benefit from the convergence, the synergies of a converged technology platform. And I'm sure we still have something for postal.
Yeah, good.
We still have Postal Corporation.
So let me ask you one question. Is it that you're giving the boys a work?
And the girls. There are probably more girls now than boys.
No, but you made a point tonight. I don't know if you know the significance of it when you were speaking about Ministry of Education having how much minutes is it?
Oh, Jesus.
And that to myself.
A stew pot of agencies that in education.
And you're going, okay. So that's what, this is a point.
I know we've added a task force and an implementation manager who is supposed to implement to implement the report that have a whole other body to what are we doing?
So therefore, what we are humbly suggesting to the persons who we are calling the the leaders, the governors, the different people, can we please, as we are in the 21st century and have celebrated 60 years of being an independent country, have a convergence onto a vision? Because with that vision, you have a mission, and then you have the objectives. Seem like you run a corporation, you have to do that so that you can now reignite. What was the theme for 60? Reignite a nation towards greatness?
Look up there and see the word. And you know something?
Reigniting a nation for
You're
great.
lucky you read it as reigniting. It's actually reigniting. You see it?
Yes.
I don't know
If
how
somebody
it came to be set
reignite.
like that, but I looked at it the other day and I said, why is the club saying we're reigniting a nation? What is that word?
Reigniting a nation for greatness.
When we went through the celebrations and there was this national decorating effort, wherever you went, you saw ministry, or I've never seen it written with the dash, with the hyphen.
But it has to be, right?
Of course, for it not to be, there is a word, reign, R-E-I-G-N is a word.
Yes.
So if you want to say reigniting and you do not put a dash after the R-E, it becomes reigniting. So I'm there looking at it and saying, why are we reigniting a nation? Then I remembered it was the tagline from Ministry of Culture, and they did not develop it. I mean, I don't know how you see it written there, but it was not created and branded so that persons with lack of understanding or more creativity than education could represent it properly. And I told them to take it down, you know.
But to my own mind, I read it and I say, no, that
the word that it's posing as can't be.
It cannot be. It cannot be.
We're not reigniting no nation.
So my point is, that was a tagline. Time has come for us now with all the things that are happening. And I do believe this constitutional reform that's happening now is a grand opportunity for us as a nation with this covenant to move forward, united around some common things that really will make us one. One of the things like education. So when we come back, I want to just jump at the education and how important that is for us as a nation. We come up.
Best 100 FM is the authentic voice of Jamaica, promoting your prosperity with better vibes and better music. Let us promote your goods and services for you. Advertise with us. For more information, call our office at 876-276-8935. That's 276-8935.
This is your beloved Pastor Percy from the Morning Connection. Support our commitment to Jamaica by joining us on Wednesday mornings at 7:30 when we pray for the nation. Show us you care. Advertise with us. For more information, call our offices at 876-276-8935.
Oh, I didn't. Welcome back. And the timing is so perfect because if we had come back 10 seconds ago, there was the most horrendous noise coming from the road.
Fire
The
truck was
fire
passing.
truck and yeah, the horns and the siren and as Lowell said to us, this is a busy time of the year for the fire department.
Because of the heat.
The heat, the heat, the heat, the heat. You know, Percy, before we return on script, I want to mention something that I am sincerely hoping gets attention. A young girl was severely burnt in St. Elizabeth, I think, is the community. Young Miss Dunkley. Her family succeeded in raising the funds needed to fly her out for medical care. Yesterday, I think, yesterday she departed. But what struck me last night, my niece was saying to me, did I catch the news coverage which mentioned that she was cooking dinner and the stove exploded? Did you take note of it? I was aware of the situation and the effort to secure funds for her to go. But what crossed my mind, and I am now addressing it from the perspective of the regulators who handle the licensing of persons who provide cooking gas. I know from some limited experience that market has become so competitive, no proper care is being given or the necessary monitoring of the persons who sell it and how they sell it. And, I believe that child's injury, the circumstances of it need to be properly investigated and attention must be paid to the source of the cooking gas that was being used. Stoves don't explode. As you know, stoves don't store gas. Stoves are just the implement that contain the fire for the cooking. I'll put it that way. And electrical stoves don't explode. So I have assumed that it must have been a gas stove. Yeah.
Well, like what I would concur with what you said, that there needs to be proper investigation of the circumstances that cause for the stove to explode.
Stove to explode while a child is in the kitchen cooking.
Yeah, because it's like you'd say, happens once every blue moon. You hear a circumstance like that.
Yeah.
And so proper investigation needs to be had in terms of the propane or the LNG content.
Whatever tank
or whatever it
she was using, they were using
there was
with
something
the stove.
defective with the stove. So proper investigation.
Yeah.
I agree with you on that one.
Yeah.
Because
and the reason I'm saying it and in this forum is because too often the poor people of this country are injured, or I shouldn't even say poor, because the persons who, like the Windrush visitors, were not well thought about. When things happen to us, you don't get a certain level of inquiry. It is treated as an accident far quicker than it needs to be. And there are some assumptions made, like maybe they never hook it up properly, or, there might be some rash assumptions are made which prevent us from recognizing where the true danger lies. I came to understand, in a short assignment I had, I came to understand that one company that is authorized to store and to fill the bottles for cooking gas can give an authorization to another person, and a little business can spring up in a community, and before you know it, people have their own sub-brands or unbranded products. And in communities where you could, if one man is selling it for $2,500, another one can sell it for $2,000, and he breaks into the market, but he has neither the expertise nor is he taking the requisite care. like many things, products that require skill and care can work its way into the hands of people who are price sensitive without the necessary safety precautions being in place. It's the same reason why women will go to, off-market places to get abortions. That's one of the reasons why regulation became necessary, because people were being injured, damaged. We see it happening in the cosmetic surgery market now. People are going into garages to get procedures that should be given under a certain level of sterile conditions. There's always that off-market industry that emerges in anything where you have price-sensitive consumers. I'm not calling them poor. I'm just calling them price-sensitive. It matters. If you can save $100, $500, $200, it matters. You're looking for a price that is within your budget. It has happened. It is happening in Jamaica in relation to cooking gas. If a child or anybody is injured because a stove explode, go look at the cooking gas. Please, I've said it. Back on script now, Percy.
No, it is interesting that market, and there are two major players in that market now. If you listen to the
Yes, if you follow the traditional reporting.
But
yes.
there are new players that are seeking to break into that market.
And at the community level, Percy, any country community going to, you see all kind of little pickup truck driving around with.
These are the sub-distributors. They have to pick up from those. So what you are talking about is safety precautions. I know.
Some of these sub-distributors are a little more than that.
What do they do?
I don't have to spell it out.
No, I mean, in terms of
they're not genuine sub-distributors. It's not like Gleaner. Gleaner is printed at one place. Anywhere you see a man selling Gleaner, you know where it's coming from. Mm-hmm. It's not like that where you are a distributor. Persons are being set up with their little drum here and their little pump there. That's what I'm talking about.
Interesting.
And then they grow until, you see them because it's a cash business and there are some budget conscious people and some of the communities are far and can't drive to go to the nearest town to go pick up a bottle of gas. And some don't. I'm just saying, please, that's the nature of things. Money follows demand. So if you see in a little community, gas bottle explode, just rest assured, you need to look critically before something else happens, because it may mean that a batch was put into circulation that wasn't properly dealt with. Back to you, sir.
No, I was just talking about the covenant, the vision, the covenant in related to the vision of Jamaica. Because when we came together in the heights of COVID, and you were at pains to point out.
Oh, you mean you and me? When we came together, I'm thinking, it's just a independence 1962 talk.
No,
when we joined forces.
And you were at pains to point out, let's examine what the Constitution says in terms of persons' right to choose with the medical procedure and so on. And one of the things we discovered that according to our Constitution, you're only the only commitment that this covenant has to you is to give you primary school education.
All age. And you said it's about 12, age 12?
Yeah, 12, yeah.
State-funded education is guaranteed only to a tender age.
So with that in mind, as I was talking about, with this grand opportunity we have in terms of the covenant, it's to fix some of the things. We can fix some of the things and put it in writing, put it in the covenant. What are our goals in regards to education? What do we want to do in terms of security? Again, we are talking about job descriptions for MPs and different things. We talk about impeachment. If it is found that an MP or somebody seeking elected office has funded people with guns and stuff done. He need to put it in, him knows if him do that, him going to suffer the consequences. Because whether we like it or not,
They should have a morality clause.
yeah, morality clause.
Yes, that's what, like if you are a professional athlete or entertainer and you want to be the brand representative for, a nice, stable product,
So there are
your
certain things
agreement will have a morality clause in it that if you behave in a certain way that might splash mud on the brand,
yes,
you're fired.
without even thinking about it.
There's no discussion about it.
Wow.
Do not be caught naked in a hotel room or in a swimming pool with something that you can't explain.
You are like how you put it. I become so very serious.
Yeah, if you can't explain why you are in a particular position, you have breached the morality clause. Your morals matter if you are a public person.
That is why those 7 principles of accountability, 7 principles
Of public life.
public life are so important for every person who is seeking to do or to become. So I'm stretching it now, I'm pushing it back. Not only to those who are elected, those who are seeking to do it. Remember,
Of course,
yeah,
that's why the U.S. embassies went public with their interest in your social media presence. And of course, colleges tell you up front, if you are busy on social media in a certain thing, don't bother come and apply because we look. And we don't want your kind.
but
yeah,
that's
so-
discrimination. I could have done that to me.
Well,
Well, and that not going to affect my education. Does it? It's
see?
not going to affect my education.
morals count.
It
That's
does.
that's where it's pointing.
It does.
Your behavior matters.
It does. You really think so?
Yeah. It's emerging that way. We're
It has-
thankful for it.
It has always been that way, hasn't it?
Yeah. So let me tell you a little bit. All right. So there's a challenge on the table. It is so interesting. Oh, another challenge is approaching the table. The challenge on the table is, could Pastor Percival present himself in a go-go club? To those who don't know go-go club, a place with exotic dancers.
And they go and preach on Sunday.
Yeah, can you be there, photographed? Oh, all right. So, yes, so there are 2 challenges now. One, can Minette delicately and with great enjoyment consume saltfish fritters courtesy of JD's Urban Pub? Let me tell you, I love these fritters. I've had it about 3 or 4 times. And I want Earl Brown to see it. Let me make sure. Yeah, no, I'm making sure that I'm checking his notes. Oh, Percy has gone ahead. And
you had one on there.
and Percy's in the lead. Yeah, Percy's in the lead. Yeah, these are absolutely delicious. They're crunchy and crispy and have just the right amount of saltfish. The right amount of saltfish is one where you keep searching for another piece. It's not so much that it confuses you. It's like, searching for the golden grail.
So you should do challenge, huh?
Oh, the challenge is for Percy to go to a nightclub on a Sunday night? No, Saturday night. And go and preach the next morning.
Depends on what you're there for. Excuse? You got
No,
an excuse?
For this, you need to open the microphone, Mr. Lawrence. That is your challenge. You need to set the rules for this challenge that Percy. Is he dancing or he's just visiting? What is he doing? That's why you said it depends on what you go for. Because you could go to dance, undercover pastor.
That's been a challenge. The whole thing of moralities matter. That's what we're talking about. And even beyond what moralities matter is understanding how important that was. And I think, remember, wow, Jesus was accused of being a wine bibber and a party goer. because he wasn't following what the people's expectation of him was. But on the face of it, your personal morality impacts your what happens on the outside. And a lot of people have fallen down. Remember, there was a gentleman who was in the late 80s, 90s, Jimmy Swaggart. Yes, Jimmy Swaggart. Powerful ministry, and it just fell when it came to the light that he'd be preaching and singing. And then some say, but the lady would say, but what is happening here? Because he would be encountering these personal ladies, you know, and he just went down. Have other Jim Baker, all of the other people.
Oh.
It has affected people. And as you have said, you have to be so careful. Your personal, it's about your personal integrity. What you say is what you do. The life that you live in front of people. It becomes very important. What do you think?
I'm actually looking here with some amazement at a question that Earl Brown has asked. He says, what Jamaica used to manufacture? He doesn't know that Jamaica had a vibrant manufacturing industry.
Yeah, man. I was still doing.
Name a few of the products, please, for Earl.
Sugar.
So we manufacture sugar.
Sugar is one of them. A lot of spices and sauces. We can a lot of stuff here still.
All right, then. Starting from what I can remember, we had factories that produced,
Toothpaste.
that did textiles and clothing.
Toothpaste.
Oh, yes, because you were with Colgate. Mm-hmm. We did shoes.
Yeah, we do pharmaceutical. The one that's taking the market now. That's related
But small, and we need to do more.
Personal care, yeah.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. Yeah, we did clothing.
There's a lot of
shoes.
things in manufacture.
We had
yeah.
shoe making.
Remember, you saw butter.
We
Butter
still
sugar.
make some windows, but we had
People make windows from scratch.
Yeah, make windows from. Mm-hmm.
But the truth is, it is manufacturing in
Bottle,
the sense that you
glass.
you
We had a
import
glass
a lot
thing.
of things overseas, the components, and you put it together here.
Not light manufacturing.
No, heavy.
Which the first time I heard the expression light manufacturing, I thought people were making lights.
Yeah, bulbs here too.
Or manufactured bulbs. But not, I'm just
all.
clarifying for Earl that
We're still doing it. Like phosphorus make a lot of plastic things, import the big polymer. Yeah, we used to do a lot of that. BRC,
Yeah.
Jamaica.
Yes. Yeah.
Yeah, man. Yeah, man.
Goodyear, we used to make
Goodyear,
tires.
we used to make tires
Used to
here.
make tires.
But I think what is baffling Earl Brown's mind is okay, but what we manufacture is a lot of import dependent. So you have the manufacturing plant here, you bring in the components, you do it, but one of the things that killed manufacturing was the cost of electricity. That became a major thing.
Yeah. Electricity and security
Yeah. became
an issue. All right, time to take a break. When we come back, I'm going to tell you a little bit about our guest who's going to be joining us in the next segment, or at 9. He's coming at 9. Talk a little bit about it, because this now is bringing us back to the training and education industry, or engine for growth. Welcome back. And thank you for staying with us. It is now 8:37 a.m.
And the
You're
challenges
listening to
continue.
you're listening to the Morning Connection, and Percy has summed it up appropriately. The challenges continue. So is that different from the struggle continues? Is it la luta continua?
I think it's the same thing.
The challenges. You said the challenges.
The challenges continue
continue.
in the national
Well, we had
politics.
one challenge for you to go to an exotic dancing club on Saturday night and then preach Sunday morning
And I
and
said
see
no.
how it affects your credibility.
Well,
You've not accepted that one.
no, why would I do that? The word of God says, feel the very appearance of evil. So if you see evil, I'm not going down, they are going in the opposite direction.
Lois says a conversion campaign. Send him, you hear?
No, I can't send him as pastor, Lois.
Send him forth.
And I'm not saying on the face of it, without getting any I would not do that. I would, but if there's a strong inspiration and move for the Holy Spirit, you need to go there, then I need to obey.
Yeah.
Because I can't say what God will not do. I understand my
You won't be
weaknesses
like-
and my strengths.
You won't be like Peter and said, "No, sovereign Lord, from the days of my youth I have touched no unclean thing."
Yes. So what I will do, unclean to you. So I'm just saying, just on the
And
face
then,
of it.
so if we see you there, it will be because the Holy Spirit bid you attend and you were obedient.
Yeah.
Arise, Percy, kill and eat.
Right. But but it is not something, because you ever heard this expression? Must think me a bone man. I leave it there.
I've
If
never.
you think if you
What is that? I've never
you
heard
think
it.
he's a bored man?
Oh, bored.
Man.
Oh, you're a real human being, so you don't put yourself in positions of vulnerability that could harm a human being.
Right.
I get it.
Or have myself.
I get it. Yes, I get it.
But the challenges continue nationally.
Yes.
Which is what is happening with the Tavistock and up Jackson.
Yeah, Tavistock. In Tavistock Terrace,
Yes.
I am very impressed by the mining and geology department actually going on record to say this is an area that is not suitable for development.
Argument
The
done.
zone is not recommended for urban, suburban occupation, and therefore engineering construction is not desirable in this area, the mining and geology department says. You see, we're going back to the vision of the country and how the vision for the nation and these many agencies that seem to exist in a chaotic fashion. You have NEPA and you have planning authorities that seem to be operating
At cross purposes.
at cross purposes with mining and geology department. You would think that the mining and geology department would be at the foundation of whatever planning and design we are saying is right for the nation and the various parts of the country that can handle certain activities. Would you say so?
Of course.
But just the fact that mining and geology is coming out with such a clear statement, while there are 4 developments
Inside there.
either already commenced or at various stages of commencement going on in an area that mining and geology is an old department of government. This is
around.
not a new something that just
No, man, they've
come
been
up.
around for a very, very, very long time.
Been around for a while. And they're not a commercially oriented department, which means
They talk
they
the
work
things
with the
based on
science.
science. That's
And
it.
absolutely. That's a whole different thing. Yeah, but they
Science.
operate based on the science and
Scientific
and the
discoveries.
the studies. I'm not accustomed to the producer being such a disruptive force. So, yeah. So when mining and geology can make a statement,
That does-
such an unequivocal statement,
Does
this
show-
area is not suitable for this. How do we get? And I know construction is already underway. You look up on the hill and you see these things happening. Yet here is a mature Department of Government saying not recommended. So how did it get to even pass first base? The point I was making is that mining and geology is not a commercially oriented department of government, whereas there are places in the Prime Minister's office and in the Kingston and St. Andrew Municipal Corporation that have their eyes on investment dollars and the investment capacity of the communities, and they are looking at things through an entirely different lens that do not treat the safety of the citizen or the preservation of the environment as a priority.
But you know,
So we need the law of the Medes and Persians. The first time you'd study the island and say, can't build here, so don't build there, so maybe here, so wait until we have technology to do it here, so that is set. Don't have nobody coming 25 years later, 50 years later, even 100 years later, and saying, oh, well, I think we could float something in this zone. Only if the technology exists.
No, but you know, that reminds me of some 6-7 years ago when they decided the Junction Road, what they were going to do. You remember that? And
Speak
they
some
spent
more.
billions of dollars doing that. And still part of it not finish it because it road just keep
Eroding.
slipping. Yeah, just
Yeah.
You,
The road is eroding.
yeah. And they never did because doing that project at the time, if you understand how it works, was to fund somebody's campaign.
Bring activity in a constituency.
Yes,
Yeah,
man.
that
And
convert
you do
to
that.
votes.
Yeah, and then convert to
Yeah.
employment, convert
What I remember,
to kickbacks.
what I remember as being a bit of an engineering marvel is the gorge. What's that bridge called again? Flat Bridge.
Yes.
Flat Bridge is what I remember. Many discussions taking place,
Why don't
different
put up
ideas,
something? I'm saying no.
how to handle.
And they say, leave it as it is.
And that bridge is one of the oldest
bridges, yeah.
passes. Yeah, and it remains as it is. When you can't travel through there, you don't travel through there. Yeah. We haven't done what can technically be done, because when we were traveling from Shenzhen to Hong Kong, how long is that bridge? We traveled on a bridge. I think it is, if it's not the longest bridge in the world, it's one of. This is we traveled on a bridge between Shenzhen and Hong Kong. And it is like it's suspended and held up by all kinds of steel. It looks like it looks like one of the bridges in America, I've forgotten which one, with you know, the many cables like guy wires. Mm-hmm. Yeah. So there is technology to do various things. Do we have it here? Do we either have the money to pay for it or the skills to deploy it? Don't know. But some of the things we need to put beside it when the technology is here. So you don't find that a piece of property changes hands, kind of, and before you know it, it is the source of a development proposal in a neighborhood that the experts say not recommended for urban, suburban occupation, and construction is not desirable in this area. The story on it says, still months after work on one of the developments caused the collapse of Tavistock Terrace and a second triggered a landslide blocking another section, the National Environment and Planning Agency has remained silent on the approval processes for both. My expectation in any well-run country, construction on all projects in the area would have been stopped. The area would have been declared restricted and be potentially and be investigated as to whether it's a disaster area. And whatever fund the government have to compensate people who own land that they have to condemn as a disaster for the safety of people in the environment, there should be a fund that you use to compensate persons, because you basically would now have to take that land compulsorily and put back vegetation on it, or introduce retainage walls that can prevent it from coming down on the rest of the communities
Below.
That is what responsible government with decisive leadership capabilities do. I say it that way because a member of this club lived in a community, Caribbean, what was the name of that community out by Caribbean Estate? Out by Harborview?
Yeah.
By Harborview. There's a community out by Harborview. I don't know if it was developed by private developers or if it was a NHT joint venture housing development. Suffice it to say, water came in one of the near miss hurricane season. Water came in and the entire community was devastated.
Remember
I went
it.
out there to look. And there was a member of the club who had got me, overheard him speaking of the challenges they had with insurance. And I think they were still living there because really, unless somebody assisted you with acquiring another home, they had nowhere to go. And I was saying to myself, but shouldn't our government have the capability and the foresight to intervene in a community that is hit hard like that in a natural disaster? Really provide the insurance monies, because listen, you permitted a development to take place in an area that was obviously at risk for this kind of activity. They're right by the seaside, and a housing development is there.
Right there.
Right. And it was put there with the planning, with the approval of the government. People bought homes there. You issue a certificate of title guaranteeing that this is land, when really what it is sand.
Oh.
Didn't mean to rhyme, but it came out that way. Because if you permit somebody to build houses on a spit of something and rain come in and wash away the whole community, that was not land. There are regulations about how close you can build to the foreshore.
You understand that?
Right. And so when developments, when people put in their proposal to put up housing developments and it goes through the regulatory process and it is approved and persons buy into those developments thinking that it's safe, and it turns out that it is far from safe. We have hurricane season from the 1st of June to the 30th of November every year. Nothing new about that. So if it don't happen this year, it may happen next year.
I think
You cannot permit.
They're playing the lotto.
But you can't permit people to create developments and sell homes in certain areas. Full stop. Tavistock obviously is one of them. That part of Tavistock Terrace is obviously one of them.
But even
So the government must step in. There's no
even
discretionary room there.
But even the government need to step in and to regulate a lot of developments that are happening on gully banks and stop it all. So I just wanted to
Of
put
course.
the words to say you can't
Percy,
build
is
there.
the
It's
same thing.
It's the same
because
thing.
when the citizens are washed off into
Well,
the
yeah,
gully,
yeah.
it's a whole nother set of drama.
And this is what I'm talking
And you
about.
can be preventative.
And this is what I'm talking about, vision. We see it all the time, and the impact on the budget. You have to find money for this. Stop it before it starts. Prevention is better than cure. So yes, it's the people. Yeah, you understand what is happening with people being forced out of here, whether it is like what happened in the 70s where people were forced to pick up and run. Remember the caller who was Tucky told us that he know people have to just get up and run, leave everything behind. That's why you have places like Sufferers, right? When you're coming into St. Catherine and you're looking up on the hill, so those things, those homes, and you have some massive structure there. Because of that, for whatever reasons, we need to just say, hello, you can't build there. So, and to enforce it. It's like I was telling you about the gentleman whose funeral I did last week.
Yes,
Friday.
I thought of it just now.
And him said, no man, him said, you can't build up there. So, and him go up there, him see the first. He saw the first signs of somebody squatting him. Say, no, man, say, not that way happen right here, so.
But you see, of course, a citizen can intervene timely and effectively.
And we have to
A
intervene.
government that has not addressed the land needs of its people loses credibility, and that's why they can't intervene. Because if you tell me I can't put my foot here, I'm going to ask you,
When we
where
can't put
then?
my foot.
Where then can I rest my feet? Because man don't fly and hover. Man have to be landed.
Man has, as you just told me this morning, the ship come after dock somewhere.
Have to dock somewhere.
So he docked somewhere, which again, remember why the Prime Minister have the sledgehammer?
Yes, we earned it.
Or on the sledgehammer because of what happened over in St. Catherine there. This thing, and Jamaicans are saying, land for the landless, because it belongs to us. It's no longer the king or the queen's own. So give the people, you set areas where people can live. Don't give people arable land to go and build a house on. Because you have to also, in the same vision, think about feeding your people, food security.
Yeah.
So these are ideas that we're talking about, but it's not new ideas, and both sides have to sit down and to say, no, man, the way we're going, it can't go. It can't go. Let us set up the law of the Medes and the Persians for the Jamaican people, that people understand, no, man, whoever come in, this is what the policy is, and it stays there unless there's a major shift. And you have to go back and say, well, we said it also, but conditions have changed. This is what we are proposing. Again, the whole thing of consensus and the whole thing of consultation with the people in terms of what we're doing. That's why this constitutional reform thing, it just gets into my gizzard. I'm just thinking about it and say, no, man. They are talking about, oh, yes, we're talking about whether we're going to, what kind of republic. If they check what is on the ground in terms of what the people are saying, they are simply saying to us the kind of a constitution and republic we want. They should run a poll, What do people want? A directly elected president, or what do we do? Because I was hearing something from...
We want to elect the president. We don't need no poll for that. People already make them...
No, but I was overhearing from another radio station where Dr. Lloyd Barnett, and I think it was Dr. Peter Phillips, were saying they're not sure about this thing. I'd love to have Dr. Lloyd Barnett, the constitutional person in our country. What are his ideas? Because he must know. But he's saying him not. I don't want to misquote. I just want to hear what is he thinking in terms of this constitutional reform and what we can do and what are the main things we need to have in it.
The first thing, Percy, is that Dr. Lloyd Barnett is one individual and his expertise is in the area of law.
Yes.
What we are trying to get at is what the Jamaican people want. The law only come in after, how to do it safely. So we don't lead. I find that we tend to bring out experts and overwhelm an issue to the point where the average person don't even feel like the issue is relatable. They think it's something arcade or mysterious.
Or beyond them.
Or beyond them. That, you need some experts. No. When you think about your country and who you want to lead it and how you want that choice to be made, it's very simple. It's the same thing when you look at your community, when you look at your household. I was asking my son a question. I asked him, what was the inspiration for this amazing pledge which they came up with as their leadership pledge? And he said to me, first he said, the speech, I asked him what was the inspiration for the speech. He said the inspiration for the speech was the pledge. So, I work my way back now. What was the inspiration for the pledge? He said he said first there was a pledge and nobody liked it.
Oh.
And so he rewrote it. He rewrote the pledge and put it to their community and it was embraced. I said, so
What do you mean?
When
There was
you-
something that was standing before.
Yes,
That was
there
there.
one was written, and the people never like it, and he took it and I guess intuiting what it was that they didn't like about it and what he himself didn't like, he rewrote it. Am I picking, he rewrites it. I tell you, I couldn't miss that one in the dark. So he rewrote it, and what he offered was acceptable. So they moved with that. But I began to ask him, he's 16, so he have no great sense of government. I began to ask him, how do you know when you are enjoying effective leadership? How you know? So you can have a place from which you can pull the principles that you want to see at work in your environment. How you know? Of course, through a series of exchanges, I understood that I have to shape his articulation of it too, because he's young and I want him to know how to express his feelings. What I picked up from him is that I live in a home where I am happy and comfortable. It means my home is under good leadership. I took him back to Proverbs. When the righteous rule, the people rejoice. When a wicked man is in charge, the people groan.
So he used that as a basis for the thing.
That's what he used as a basis. So every one of us, law degree, no law degree, every one of us know what it feels like. Intuitively, we
Instinctively know what is good.
What it feel like when we're under good management, and when we're under bad management, we know, we recognize it, we feel it. And more than anything else, he could relate to, I'm okay. I'm not unhappy. I'm not distressed. I don't feel like I'm voiceless. If I need something, I can ask. If I can't get it right away, I understand why. You're under good management, good leadership.
You need to read that pledge again. I need a copy of it.
I'll send it to you.
No, but
Yeah,
you need
'cause he
to
gave
read
it
it
to me.
because I don't think some of our
When
discuss-
Leighton comes, Leighton is going to join us around 9 o'clock.
Yeah.
And it is a part of his school community. So we will get a chance to revisit elements of the pledge. But I'm going to share it with you, since I know you mentor young ones too.
And they understand, when you talk to them, if you listen to them, like I'm saying to them, they're doing exams on. I said, why is it that you like a teacher that says, even though she rough with us sometimes, but we know say she love we.
There you go. The man are idiots.
They know, the children know, the children them know instinctively, and people know instinctively, because leaders are called to be shepherds of the people, and them know instinctively. They know instinctively.
When you're under good management, when you're under bad management.
They know instinctively if these people are thinking about us or they're not thinking about us.
And if you're poor at diagnosing a situation, Proverbs tell you, when it's righteous people, the people then rejoice, they're happy. When it's wicked people, the people groan. We're taking a break now, 9 o'clock. We're going Okay. Welcome back. We are so pleased to have with us at the table the chairman himself. Who was called the chairman? Frank Sinatra?
Yes.
The chairman himself. If you're a music fan, that means something to you. Edison Layton, who bounced in. I can't believe it. When you tell me that you've been in this business since 1992, I think working with children keeps you young.
Well, the gray hairs would probably say otherwise, but yes, I'm young at that.
No, people are spending money to get gray hairs these days, so I don't know.
It's a little distinguished. You know, when I was when I started teaching in at high school level, I will never forget. It was Sister Mary,
Sounds like you're at
Holy Child. No, it was Holy Child.
Yes.
Holy Child. I started, and the reason I started at Holy Child was in Harpetry.
Yes.
Yeah.
Right.
So what I wanted to do is to actually, because I was on a scholarship for the engineering degree in Trinidad.
Yeah.
So I just wanted to give back, just to take a year.
Yeah.
And also my sisters, we are from Montego Bay,
Right.
from Maroon Town, St. James.
That's where you're from?
Yeah, that's
You're
where
a
my
transplant
mother
like
is.
myself.
Right.
Right.
So when we came up, we miss at Holy Child is where I actually started, and I always wanted to have gray hairs.
Why?
Just because I was coming out of university.
I need to look
It was
too
too
young.
young.
Yes.
So I said, man, when can I get some gray hair and a beard?
And
Nah,
now?
geez.
And now?
Well, I think I wish too hard.
Always be careful what you wish
You'll
for.
get it. You'll get it. You'll get it.
Careful what you wish for. I get it all. So I can't
Yes,
complain. I got my
man,
wishes.
because, yeah, full, and you're sporting it because some people shave their beard completely.
Yes.
But you're enjoying your.
Yeah, but it is what
Your mark of wisdom.
Yeah, it is what God gave. So
Yeah.
work with it, and I'm okay with. I'm good.
Okay.
All right. Well,
Well,
we're going to maximize the time that we
yes,
have together
please.
because so much of what you're saying is relevant to what Percival and I focus on. Your process of education, your journey of education sounds regional. When I
Yes.
hear St. Augustine, for
Yes.
those who might not know, where is St. Augustine?
All right. Well, morning to our listeners.
Yes. And the co-overseas, because we have people in England,
Yes.
USA, Canada.
Excellent,
online.
excellent, because these are who I really want to reach out to.
That's your market.
Right? My group from St. Augustine. St. Augustine is the St. Augustine campus of the University of the West
University,
Indies, Trinidad.
Right.
So I was on Canada Hall.
Yes.
That is the greatest
It was a hermit.
hermit.
It was a hermit.
Absolutely best place to be in the world.
Oh, what can I say?
And I'd say universe. Because we're not so sure about that.
But-
Absolute. So St. Augustine campus at Trinidad. So that's what they refer to as St. Augustine. So that was, we were on Hall, Canada Hall, and Canada Hall really, no matter where you're from, when you entered, you're on the same level, no matter who you were. And after that initial period of processing,
Yes. Then
Call it growing.
you rise to your different levels.
yes. So after that, then you find that you had a group that you could depend on.
You bonded the man.
Be bonded. And up to this day, when you're speaking about it, I'm in a group of, I think it's maybe 200 hermits of the 80s or something like that.
Lord.
Hermit was her name. And every day we're communicating. And in fact, I've gotten such support in particular this program I was speaking
Yeah.
about. I have people who are
Wow.
willing to invest
So
time.
apparently for you to live the dream of Dewey, because Dewey was born out of a theory that regional cooperation could
Yes.
emerge from
Yes.
an educational institution that brought the best of the islands together.
Yes.
You're living it.
Yes,
I
yes.
can tell you the lawyers are not living it. I mean, I was on Irving Hall for the first year, and then I was at Cave Hill campus.
Oh, you're right.
I can't tell
Yeah,
you that
Cave
I'm
Hill.
in, yeah, I mean, I might be the...
Cable is
Yeah,
it was
different. It's different.
Different.
Yeah.
Trinidad is
Different.
where it was going on.
Trinidad, Canada Hall.
Canada Hall, St. Augustine.
Yeah, Hall.
I do love your
Yeah, but
I do love your loyalty to the, to the school tie.
we have a lot of successful contributing here.
Yeah.
All over the
Our
world.
network,
But you know-
Australia, Canada, UK,
Well, I'm going to pull another strand from that tapestry, because everyone is talking about now STEAM or STEM.
Right.
And St. Augustine is where the sciences, excluding medical sciences, but the agricultural sciences, engineering
was the
sciences,
focus.
that's where, yes.
Right.
And that's kind of like the engine of growth for the modern society right now. Everybody's is saying you got to get your kids into the math and the sciences and so on, technology.
Definitely, and I think that it is acknowledged now that it's an area that we should have spent a lot more time, not just in training, but also in retaining.
Yes.
Which is a big part of the challenge, because when you train and you have most of my peers they're overseas, but they're really just looking for ways to
pour back,
to contribute, to pour back.
And you have given them an excellent avenue.
Yes, we
Let's
have
talk a
an
little bit about that.
awesome
Yes.
opportunity, awesome, wonderful. We're speaking about, well, Maths Unlimited started with mathematics, and then we went into exam prep, CSEC, CAPE, tutoring, and then we had other programs courses. And there's this one really awesome program that we're running. It started as a normal private day school. And in fact, that existed from around 1998. And we did well, private.
So it sounds like as soon as you got out of St. Augustine, you were what? Running a professional, typical career, but then also involved in education.
That is probably how you would want it to sound, but that's not exactly. Let me tell you what happened.
Tell me what happened. I can't resist it.
When I was in Trinidad, I actually taught students at the St. Augustine. It's one of my peers that reminded me. I was teaching students at St. Augustine's High School, St. Augustine High School in Trinidad, after school. So I prepared students, and I realized that sometimes what you just naturally do, you're not even right. So that is something, and that happened from that time.
So
and I
you're a teacher.
It seems that way.
That's
basically it, right? So when I returned, I was assisting students, and then I started working. I worked at GPS, right? Wonderful. I worked in project management and control. And the truth is that I was not excited about it. I tried my best, and
to get excited about it.
I actually went to my boss and said, "Boss, honestly, I don't think GPS is getting
the best
bang for the buck. They're not getting value
From you,
from me."
honest man.
Right, and it wasn't very long, and then after that, Sister Stephanie,
Right, from
Holy
Child.
Child. Then I said, maybe I'll just sit for just do a year, help out, teach.
Yeah.
My sisters in Montego Bay, I said maybe I could get them up into Kingston. So we're in a family was in a transition, and I said, okay, let's do that. And then after that, we can always do some more engineering and so on. But that never.
After that, never came.
Never came.
You still have time, despite the beard.
No, but it's the
here now.
network that I have and the conversation. We have some of the brightest, best. I mean, I call some names, man. Some really brilliant. Yes, one is well. Let me see if I can remember his name. Colin.
Well,
doctor. He's a VP at Microsoft.
As opposed to the alias.
Yeah, as opposed to some of the alias is not.
Not for
Can't
good.
be said on-
Can't be said on here. I know I'm not you, man. Yeah, man.
So see, he's brilliant. He had formed this company that was I think bought by Microsoft, and he's now VP Microsoft.
Yeah.
That's some. I have
All right, so let's
Charles.
be clear,
Yeah,
because
man.
I don't want anybody to think
yes.
that you dropped out of your at any point. You are an electrical engineer and a computer engineer. Those are the disciplines.
Yeah, I'm trained in electrical and computer engineering, but I have not practiced.
Yes.
And that's
No, because you then went to teach.
Right.
This is what I'm discovering now.
I have my qualifications. I completed the education, but I do not have the experience
Say that to her, yeah.
In the field.
Right.
You've
Yeah, that
just
is-
been working with the minds of
Yes.
the young primarily. Or
no,
any age?
Any age. So it's a combination of education and entrepreneurship. I was particularly passionate about entrepreneurial startups, ideas, getting
Okay.
from vision to reality.
wow.
That's really my passion.
That's your passion.
And
So what you have in the incubator?
in the why?
What's in the incubator?
In the pipeline?
Yes.
Well, one of the big ones that we want, we're speaking
That's what you
about
wanna
now,
talk
is,
about now.
is the residential. We want to have a residential program, which is really an intervention for children who didn't get the background that a lot of
The
us,
early foundation.
the early foundation, socializing, the financial, the family, and they're really challenged. And
So when you say residential, what makes it residential?
residential is that we want, based on what we have seen and the steep learning curve in working with students in collaboration with the Ministry of Education.
Right.
We did it years ago and then we started it thanks to
Is that the old picture I saw? The
possibly,
2006?
Possibly.
We'll talk
possibly.
about that after.
We restarted a few years ago, like 3 years ago,
Yes.
the partnership with the Ministry of Education, where students who don't have places in the public system are placed in private institutions. So we resumed this partnership, and Parkington High is one of the independent institutions that I could not have started it. Hillary Kemp, she's a principal, and she is a passionate individual who
she's
is
brilliant.
pouring her all into this. She and Dr. Vivian Diocoro,
Yes.
the principal of Diocoro Magnet School for the Gifted and
yes,
Talented.
yes.
She came on board and volunteered to say, let's work together. So we had our steering committee. This is the whole thing about entrepreneurship in education,
Yes.
where you start somewhere, you look at the vision, you look at what is needed, and we went in with, we all dived in. But man, my experience from then, in terms of what you're dealing with now, completely different situation. So this learning curve that I'm talking about, in terms of adapting, adjusting, learning, applying resources, very
We never
limited.
help with that at all.
No man, that is the
That made the curve
the thing
steeper.
absolutely horrible.
Yeah.
Because just imagine children who aren't socialized and not exposed to the internet, because the internet was a tool of teaching. So you have the
Recreation.
tool without the control,
Understand the sensitivity.
without the environment to be able to ensure that they're guided. Just imagine that. And this is what you have.
I want to hear about the residential program.
Okay.
How does the residential part work? They have to live somewhere, or how
Right.
do you?
But
Let me
how?
hear.
Okay, so what we had is, grade 7 to 11 students coming in and then going home to the various communities.
Yeah.
And what we realize is that, whoa, these children have
Real challenges at home.
right, real challenges. So we will address something, and so let's say they're leaving and I say, yes, have a good day, great afternoon.
Yes, we've made some progress.
By the following morning, it's like back to
Square one.
right. And this is not in all cases.
Yeah.
And the parents and guardians and people support them are really doing their best. But just imagine, like, let's say your father murdered, killed, your mother is in the US trying to make a life. So you're kind of
Siblings.
part-time between grandma, auntie,
Uncle.
uncle.
Our
You raise
siblings.
yourself.
Right. And then the one that you stay with most might be, let's say, auntie. Well, she has to go
Work.
early, Carnation Market from 4 o'clock. And sometimes she give you something. Sometimes you have to, the child has to go with her.
With her, yeah.
Just imagine all that kind of. And then, so we see them on Tuesday. What happened
Yeah.
yesterday? Well,
Go on, market.
so it's a part-time education in what should be a full-time program. So residential came from this thing where we say, Robert Campbell, he's on board, Dean of Discipline, he, remarkable job. He has
Yeah.
experience working with these camps, the NYS camps.
Yeah.
He's yes, he has spent time as a reserve with JDF.
Right.
All right. So what we realize is that you're really almost containing and preventing, but that is not
Yes.
transformation.
Yeah, yeah.
So what we're doing
Minimum
is
survival.
we reached out to the specialists with the skill sets and the competencies, things like conflict resolution,
Resolution.
restorative justice,
Justice.
all of that kind of thing.
Yeah.
Transformation in what is it you really need to have that breakdown to. It's like a peel off everything, and then you start from scratch
Deconstruct and build again.
Right. So what we got is that one we could do within the what we have is that we could have a residential camp.
So don't send them home.
No, residential camp, and that's what we aspire. We intend to do
Wow.
this summer.
Okay.
From the residential camp, once we're inviting people to be on board with us, because the government really does. We appreciate the grant that they give to each student, but that grant is really 80,000 Jamaican dollars a year. Just for the record,
It's not a term per term?
$80,000 Jamaican.
It's not even per term?
No, for the school year. They do provide other resources.
Yes,
like if
but
you
cash, you
but
have
the
to pay.
basic
You
thing.
have to pay light bill with
Right.
cash.
I remember speaking
Water.
when these students
Pay
gave it.
teachers with cash.
But one of the students gave me somebody referred me to a child psychiatrist and experience with dealing with. I said, come on, man, we need help. I said, no, man, we must, you're a professional in private, we will do what we can. I expect a little discount, you know? And the first, I think, what do you call it, session,
Yes.
she said something like, it's normally something like 80 something, but we'll give it for 70. Something like that. Or something like, or something, and then we give it for
I see
80.
where this is going.
So I was like, okay, maybe a series of sessions. No, she's saying the first assessment
That's what it is. Yeah.
one.
That's one. Yeah.
And I was like, we get 80,000 for one for the year. And the first assess, because one of the things I was saying is, no man, we need somebody who can assess these students properly
Yeah.
and start with a proper
Diagnosis and a plan.
Psychological.
this, we
assessment.
discount
It's true.
$80,000. That's about it. So you can imagine the resource challenges we have.
Yes, that's
No, before I used to apply like a thing, which I used to call it Robin Hood economics.
Yes. Oh, we
The Robin,
can-
our business plan. Let me
we
tell you
can
what it
figure
is.
that out.
Manchester Unlimited used to have programs that are fully paid.
Right. And then
And
they
so,
use that.
and so
subsidized.
those who pay, the truth is that we did scholarships, and one of the reasons you won't find us, and I have to be better at that, especially with respect to programs like Parkington, is that we never actually said, hey, we're giving a scholarship, we're giving a let's go. And it was recently that I did a little check. And the truth is, we have given over $500 million
in scholarship.
in scholarships and discount.
Yeah. Because
And
once
you
a
have people
student
always
comes,
coming back. I remember someone coming and saying, "Mr. B, you don't remember me?" To this day, I remember my friend from Bahamas. He had 2 children. And every single year, every time he passes, he comes and have a gift and he's saying, you know the impact you had. You remember these other children that you used to help? That kind of thing. So the impact is enormous. But in doing so, we had challenges, and especially with COVID. And so what really happened were programs that were profitable and generated cash
and used to subsidize
Really?
the others.
were really strained significantly. And then how do you keep a program now which has to be fully significantly subsidized?
Yes. Yeah. When
Thanks to people like Hillary and Dr. D and others, the team, we held it. Because we said we're not letting it go. But we need
More support.
normally you need help.
Let me ask you a question, and forgive
Yes.
me, listeners, you know, I'm off camera. But do you look at the possibility of twinning your program with an overseas entity
Yes.
that will help to bring in
Yes.
monies from?
Yes, in fact, my wonderful engineers, we facilitated. I actually made some suggestions, and a
Set
number
up
of them
an NGO.
actually got
501c.
together. And yes,
501c,
thank you.
that's it.
That's it.
That is a
501c.
charity
So that is
which-
actually happening, and there's an academy, Uprising, that was formed that significantly will invest in sport, and it started with sport because Leighton Walters is one of my peers, and he has been doing work working with students some from all these communities, did wonderful work at with children from Holy Trinity. And our program was there, and I got a number of them into schools and colleges in the United States, primarily. So he came on board, and then others came on board, and then what you have established is Uprising Academy. And what has been happening now is that the 501c, all of that is being set up. So we are actually partnering. So that is happening. There, I can show you messages. There are people
That's
willing
happening
to.
right now.
There are people willing to contribute right away. But guess what? You have to ensure when you're doing this thing, you have to make sure you're set up in a way that once you accept $1,
You can
account for
have
it.
transparency, accountability.
Right, you have to have transparency, accountability, deliverables. So my thing is that it must be set up. You're not stopping it, you know. Like maybe like you have a few that say bird. Bird is my moonbird. Bird. Yeah. So
Moonbird.
no, moonbird. Yeah, but so bird. Hear what that now. I don't want to know nobody. Nobody don't need to know. This is just between me and you. Here's something here. Just help you out with one child. So I like that. That is okay.
Yeah.
But then in terms of formal structure, that is being done.
So follow to that now.
Yes.
Is there a footprint across the island in terms of what you're doing? Or do you have plans to expand?
Or you take students from anywhere.
Yeah.
Right now, what we're doing is working with starting where we are with what we have,
Right.
which is there are students that are placed from the Ministry of Education. We will select others, especially in association with other institutions. We have to make sure we are very clear what we will do
Yes.
and what we are not equipped
To handle.
Right now, what we're doing is there's this steep learning curve and appreciating who we have,
Yes.
and that there are a few who will not be able to be with us. But in transition, we have to make sure we work with the transition and that they're in a safe place. So
what's the location of your camp? Have you selected a location?
I will invite, and I do hope we can return with the brain, the man behind this camp thing. That is Robert Campbell.
Right.
He's really passionate about it, and Hillary. They're really busy now because they're not the way how that program is. Because I would have wanted him to be here. We can't be. He shouldn't. No, shouldn't. That's just a reality. Meaning the resources are limited, and you can't.
If you pull one out,
no, that's not man. That is how.
The vehicle might stop.
Yes.
You can't pull it.
Right, but
Pull out the driver.
allow him to share, and we need help for this particular camp. So without even before the 501k, etc., we have found partners who we can work with this
So
camp.
this is a wonderful counselor and pastor. I had given his information to
I
Mrs.
spoke
Kemp
to
because
Mrs. Kemp, yeah.
I had got his
but your
permission.
right, what's your discounted rate? After you take it. Well, you know the budget at this time is 80,000 per year.
So that means he's going to move from 0 to minus.
To the discount the zero.
No, that's a reality.
I need to follow up.
I tell you,
Okay, yeah.
but you see, no, I will start to do the maths.
Oh,
So
and
that, you know,
and your math unlimited.
yeah, no, so we're doing the maths.
The math will add up.
It's new math.
Yeah, man.
It's called development math.
Right. But
Because
is
we
that-
have to do that to meet the development challenges of our nation.
Right, impacting one child. I remember that
man.
little. I mean, you know, whether this story is true or not. Sometimes, you know, people say, "No, that wasn't really true."
It's
But the truth is, you
anecdotal.
can derive things from a story. It can be a
Yeah,
paper.
they'd have.
I'm talking about the starfish story. That little story. You know that's
don't know the starfish
Let me tell us
story.
that story.
What?
No, we don't know the starfish story.
All right.
All right, we go. Okay.
Okay. No, that starfish story. What happened? Early morning, you had this man. We have different variations, but let's say this man's going out on this successful, and he's jogging on the beach, and then he saw a little child, a boy, you know, dipping and taking something and tossing into the water early, and he was, what's going on? So when he passed, he realized the child was actually tossing a starfish. And then he realized the whole beach was littered with starfish because the tide receded and in the morning.
And this, yeah.
And then he said, "What are you doing?" He said, I'm tossing it, throwing back the starfish
Putting
in the
them back
sea.
in the sea.
I said, "But they're like literally
Many.
thousands out there. You can't make it. It don't make sense." And then the child took up one. tossed it into the ocean. He said, made sense for that one.
One less.
Made a difference.
Yeah.
And then he jogged along, and then he jogged along, and he looked back, and he stopped, and took one starfish,
Put it. Yeah.
threw it in the ocean, and then he went along his way.
That's
So
a
that is
beautiful
the-
story.
That's a star. That's
We'll
the,
discuss it in the break.
yeah, that's a starfish.
Never heard the starfish story, but it
Yeah.
makes sense.
Right. Yeah.
Yes.
Okay.
Wow. All right, so now you know about the starfish. And sitting right at this table, some of us are starfish, and some of us are the little boy. There are four of us here, and I can guarantee there's a starfish, there's a little boy who is tilting against windmill, and there's a jogger who is impressed.
Right. And the jogger is really, I have it that it's somebody of influence.
Yes, because he went and told the
Right.
story all over the world.
Right? And he actually stopped
Yes.
and took a starfish. And I'm
Yes.
sure as he's going along, he's saying, maybe I can, with the resources
Yeah.
that I have.
He
Maybe I
stopped
can.
saying, foolish little boy,
Right.
trying to turn back the tide.
And that's what's out there,
And he
you know.
began to see, visionary little man, recognizing that if you change the life of one, it matters. It matters. So which are you, starfish, jogger? Giving you an opportunity now.
I'd say
Which
I'm
one are
more
you?
the child. The child
Yeah.
realizing that whatever it is you have in your own way to help one is significant.
Yeah.
So
The difference it makes for that one.
right. Maybe it's 3, maybe it's 5.
Yeah. Well, each
Right.
time you
makes
focus
a
on the
difference.
one,
Yeah.
Right. And if you don't approach it that way, sometimes you get overwhelmed
you'll be
by
overwhelmed.
you know, when
Yes.
you talk to, if you're not in it, you know, when you speak, like I speak to my friends, that, well, I mean, we always have this to and fro. So one, because we have our own little names and identities, and it's a whole entertainment, you know. So one will be like, boy, Jamaica will always not,
Yes,
it will never
we-
get anywhere.
We
You know
hear
that whole thing?
too.
Do that all
Yes.
the time.
And so when you look, you said, no man, what you all trying? I mean, Bird, God go with you, but
It's not
it's
gonna change.
it's not going to change. And over time, it's difficult to actually say otherwise if you look from independence coming
Yeah.
all the way down.
Yeah.
So it's difficult, and we understand. You know, it's why invest in something that just isn't going to work. That's the whole thing. It don't make no sense. But I cannot see how
Yeah.
you cannot have that kind of.
No,
If you-
because each of us probably can relate to being that investment that was not going to work. And we see what we do and how we become.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Because that's a part of it. A big part of it
Yeah.
is that I have a responsibility. Because my own little story, I never used to, without going into all the things, I was actually expelled from school.
And you're whispering it. You still don't
Yeah,
want to
yeah.
go there. Let's say it out loud. He was expelled.
Yes, from
From
top
school,
high school,
from a top high school.
Cornwall College,
Yeah.
a school that
And here you
produces
are
men
today.
of might.
Yeah.
And he did the right thing. The principal at the time, Dr. Dudley Stokes, did the
Of blessed
correct.
memory.
Yes, he did the yes, fantastic, and he did his decision was the right
Correct.
decision. But there was
Yes.
risk. Let me tell you where the risk is. When the child is on the, so when there's no follow, right? He did what he has to do.
If
He
you
just
just slide down the
if-
slope.
because I was literally on the street. I remember I used to stay, there's this library in Montego Bay, if you know Bobby.
Yeah,
It's
right.
like a hangout spot. We used to,
Yeah,
So you were not
I know where
studying?
Cornwall is, and where the
yeah, man, that's where we used to.
So the library
that's
you
where
were-
all the schools
So
would
it come down and
Yeah.
get right.
Right.
Mount Alverna,
Yeah,
Cornwall,
man. So you
that's-
go like you're reading book in
So
the
you
library.
weren't at studying at the library?
No. You go, you. No. You read
You
as well.
start something
But it was a
else.
little area, like a hangout spot, and then we used to hang out there. But then after I got expelled, I realized I was really hanging out by myself. So my friends, right, weren't hanging out with me.
Back in school.
There's a bird. My name was Birdie in high school, and then so there's a Birdie. All gone. Come on, gone, and it was low. So I used to stay the whole night.
So did your parents know you were expelled immediately?
Yes,
or
yes,
you...
man. I went home.
Oh, I thought you pretended
Went
to be
home
still
and
at
said,
school.
well, you know, man, and I tell you, it was difficult
Mother
going
went
to my
in the
mother
room.
because she was washing,
Yeah.
and it was very painful. It was very painful. So, my story, the point I'm making is that I was on the road, and then I wanted to go to a community college. You know,
Ah, yes.
Ivy Townsend.
Yeah.
Yes.
He asked my mother, said, "What is he?
What's Bird doing?
Yeah, what is?" And I said, "Well, we're not sure what he's gonna do." He was expelled and gone, and she said, "Give him a chance." I think that boy.
Send him to
Right.
me.
'Cause I was bright, you know. I was
still
bright,
are.
but
Yeah, I
I
tell
was
you.
not a bad boy, bad man. I was more a Tron, mischievous rebel. The rebel would be the word. Rebel, I was rebellious. I used to go to school 12 o'clock, lunchtime. That kind of thing.
Remember, people school start at 7:30, 8 o'clock. in the
Yeah, I know
morning.
12, like big day, a story.
Arrive.
Yeah, man. So anyway, she gave me this fantastic
Opportunity.
opportunity. God rest her soul. She was amazing, and I got the opportunity at
Because you
Muscovy.
were in lower six.
That was it.
So you were
Yes,
just
so I
about
was
ready to
so I was
do
on
A
the road for a
level.
while. Yeah, but I was on the road, so
Yeah.
she gave me an opportunity. So I did about lower six and
The A-level.
Right,
A-levels and so
The
on.
rest is
Yeah.
St. Augustine.
And yes, in fact, and this is where I really believe you can make change. Obviously, it's not just, but an influence can make a difference. So I moved from being expelled to actually being
Yeah, that's
the
good.
top scholarship to Jamaica. I don't know if you're aware, but that
No.
year I actually my A-level that year
Yes.
I was actually
Highest
the
performer.
highest performer in Jamaica.
Wow.
And when I even said what?
What were the others doing?
No, that was my expression. That was it. What? Because champion,
Yeah.
immaculate.
Everything
And you're from
others
Mobiero,
was doing.
country place. And
Yes.
no, I was the top performing
That
student.
is
I got one of
amazing.
the, what you call it, the Jamaica
Jamaica Scholarship.
Yes.
I could only imagine how your community college principal who said, give the boy a chance, how she felt to see those results.
And I was the one the mathematics was my year, so I won the mathematics annual mathematics competition.
Yeah.
And we used to be connected with the international competition.
Yeah.
So I was the Olympiad.
Olympiad,
I won.
that's going on.
I was one of the, I think I was the only person who got the award in the international. Jamaica isn't too known generally for mathematics performance. So I won the award.
You know, we have to do some
And
PR
this is
for you.
after.
Yes.
This is after being expelled.
Yes.
Right?
Yes.
So,
Yeah.
so that is why there's always redemption.
There
I think
is-
you
there- no,
understand
man, there is,
redemption.
there is.
And I think that's why you're so passionate about what you're doing in terms of these students.
Yeah.
Because I know you're
Giving
talking
them
about,
a real second chance.
yeah, because I'm just thinking in terms of some of the things that some of the people have interacted with and see them turn themselves around and move on. Yeah.
Yeah.
So there's a call that is going on for this
Yes.
residential camp that is
It's a
When is it
residential
starting? When is it
summer
gonna start?
camp. It will be in the summer.
This
the date-
summer, it's starting this summer.
July, August, when?
We expect it to be the second,
Week in
round
July.
about, not the first week, the second
It's
week,
about
second to the third.
about
Okay.
the 7th of
Alright.
July.
So we're gonna make sure
Well, we need
you
a follow.
are the dean of discipline.
Yes, we need Robert.
Come back so when the dates are fixed, so
Right.
persons can know
Right.
that you're doing this. If there's a charge for it, person will have to contribute something. I know.
Students who are
I know
coming.
it costs.
No, there's a cost for it.
Yeah.
We want you have to be you have requirements to be eligible.
To
for
be
it.
eligible.
But there's no the student or the parent will not be paying
Yes.
anything. So I want it to be fully
So there's a call that is going out because what helps in terms of something like that, you know what your food bill is, and some people give you kind
Yes.
instead of cash.
Yes, that's
Yeah.
right.
Like the
That's-
Grace Kennedys,
Right.
the last call,
Right.
those
Yeah.
people, if you what is important when you come back,
Excellent.
you don't need so much bags of rice, so much cases of chicken,
Right.
that
You can
kind
see
of a
Percy is
thing.
ready to
Yeah.
contribute.
Yes.
So
No.
Yes.
But we had a discussion in terms of how you do this kind of thing, and
Right.
that is what
Yeah, man. you have
that's
to
what
be able
that
to
came
see
up. Because
that.
I was saying, hey, then if you look at the cost of price of lunch or something, for
Right.
them,
Right.
what they're saying is, yeah, if you look at it that way, it looks impossible.
But if you
But
can
what you
get-
do
yeah,
is you do
chicken,
exactly what you said.
right.
You get your
Get
chicken,
that
you get your
support.
rice.
So all
you
my
make sure you
people
have somebody
online-
on board who is going to do all the
Yeah.
meals.
Yeah,
And we
So
have-
we'll make an appeal to those of our listeners who are online and are looking for something to support in the area of education and especially re-engaging the young people who were
The
so
at-risk.
displaced
Yes,
during
yes, you-
COVID and so on. When we get the firm details, we're going to share with you
Right.
how you can contribute to this program.
Right. These are perfect. We have the perfect
yes.
candidates. We didn't go out
Yeah.
and
You-
after
you
the
already
truth
have
is,
them.
They ended up. They actually
Yeah.
and they're in a good proportion in the school population. So these are impact any one of these children, and I'm saying to you, you'd have impacted the
The community where they come from.
significantly underneath.
There's a
There's
tag-
no question about it.
Oh,
a tagline that just come
the
to my
marketer in you
spirit.
woke up.
Each one change one.
Excellent. Excellent.
Each one change one.
You know, it is very similar because, and actually, thank you because you're actually helping me to remember one of the key people involved. That's Coach Chester.
Yeah.
Coach Chester, I know Coach Chester because he has worked with my son in terms
son,
of
football.
that's Sean football. Right?
Yes, yes.
And Coach Chester is from Top Range, which is opposite stadium that area there.
Right,
Yeah, right that side, but it's
Yes.
up at the top of the shooting range. That's
Yeah. Oh, that's right.
and
Top range.
that community is a model. They have like an annual sports day, no matter where you are. That must be going on for decades.
Because that's coach community.
Right. And that's a special community. But Coach, he actually, when he came on board, he used something very similar to what he said. Each one. No, let me tell you what he said. We are the change makers, and everyone must change. Change. Something like that.
Yeah,
So it's very consistent with that. I want to.
So coach is a part of
Coach,
your,
yeah, man, he's on board.
Your resource.
Right. I saw Honorable Minister Pavel Williams. I saw where it's her.
Constituency.
Yes.
Constituency.
Right. I see where she was there for the sports day.
Sports day.
And I saw where she was talking to one of our students in our program, Tessanique. Tessanique said that she had like a 1 hour conversation. Tessanique is in grade 5. A 1 hour conversation with the minister. I said, "Oh, you saw the minister?" She said, "Yeah, we chatted. We spoke for like an hour." She knows me. She said she knows me. She knows me. We are friends.
How old is Tessanique?
Tessanique is like 11.
Okay, so Tessanique know what an hour feels
Brilliant
like.
girl. Brilliant.
Some children think 5 minutes is an hour.
No. She's brilliant and it's commendable.
Forever.
It's commendable what she did. So it's the same. He's from that community.
Yeah, beautiful.
So he has a lot of experience with working with young people.
Boy, I mean, we have to express commendations to you on so many levels. Of course, one, your personal story and sharing it.
Right.
A lot of times, adults behave as if they landed fully formed and experts.
Right.
And we don't let the young ones know that we had our moments of questionable behavior.
Yes. Call all them like, you wouldn't understand. You don't. Your life. You not even have a clue.
No, but that's why with young people you have to be
You gotta
authentic.
tell them.
Them have to tell them the real. And if they're really,
Yeah. Oh, let me see what's going on online. Percy, please just acknowledge the greatness of the man who's in our company. And he has a record, not like your record with the slips and the cricket.
no, I play cricket and I went to Calabar to the map, the record. Calabar.
Oh man, that my brethren, Papa boy, graphic guy.
Yeah.
I know, graphic guy. Well, obviously, Pandui.
Yes, right.
Yeah, man, he is all my band.
Pandui is a part of it.
Pardo, you need to know
You
it's
need to know, Percy.
Oh yes. You mean cricket?
Let him tell you what.
Well, no, I'm gonna fight. No, you can't hide.
No, man, let him tell you.
Oh, yes.
Pandui was after my time, but I was
Not the
joking
same
with
of
him.
the
I'm
record.
gonna find out.
I played cricket.
Yes.
So I have the record for the most by about 15 the match, so I stopped scoring the game.
Go again. That was fine.
But you know,
He has a record.
I was top scorer in the game.
It's a record.
Anybody who is seeking to break that
But that, I assure him, I will find. We have some.
You'll get the backstory.
We have a little group we call HIA, Permit Intelligence.
Yes.
So I assure you, HIA will get
That's
the
the full.
So next time you see me, you'll be surprised.
You can give me the backstory.
Calabar, man. We have a lot of.
What you're doing is commendable. It really is. We talk a lot about education on this program, the need for reform, the need for a philosophy of education that gives our children an opportunity not to be employees somewhere, but to be leaders and to be entrepreneurs. And your own life is a model of what you've done. And that you're a teacher at heart is just, it's the icing on the cake. When next we meet, I want you to tell me how to make money out of education.
Yes.
You might not be
Doing it for
doing it.
years.
Oh, well, there are examples.
He keeps doing that. He keeps
No.
doing it and putting it back
Yeah,
in.
yeah. No, there are examples. There are examples out there. There are youngsters doing fantastic work.
Eddie Focal.
Eddie Focal, one-on-one.
Yeah.
Right, Ricardo Allen.
Yeah, they're done.
Yeah, man, Swaby.
Yeah.
Yes, but are they actually teaching children or they're providing support services?
No, they're making an impact, and they're.
Oh, undoubtedly.
No.
But
They're different ways. They teach Ricardo from JC. His story is a fantastic one. He used to teach one-on-one.
Yes.
So that's where it came from. One. He used to literally offer one-on-one. So
each one change one.
yes, man.
Yeah, so I think that conversation is in our future.
Yes.
Because many people treat education as some kind of thankless charity work, but there's a way to do it
Yes, and I'll tell
and
you.
to profit from doing it.
There's
And I
a-
suspect
yeah.
that you know how.
Yes, and something I've thought about in Vision, I see it being done, and it would be interesting to see how it plays out. I'm talking about social stock exchange.
Okay, the Star
Yes, well,
program.
the Chinese
Star,
have
Star.
that's really where I
Yeah.
want to go. Pastor.
Yeah.
Like,
Yeah.
Because so once you have it, the full accountability and so on for this particular program. So that's the direction
Yes,
I
yes,
want.
We can talk to them and see
Alright,
if
so
we can take
So you see, we have many conversations booked for the
Yes.
future because we want to see Jamaica transformed and we want to see our children being given the opportunity to progress, not just in terms of, being able to make money, but being really decent human beings
Yes.
of whom we are proud.
Yes,
So
I
I
love that.
congratulate you again, sir.
I love what you just said.
I had the pleasure of being at Parkington and seeing what is happening there, and it impressed us to say, let's invite Chairman Layton
Yes,
to sit with us.
I'm
So thank you
honored.
for joining us.
Thank you very much. I'm
and for
honored,
your stories.
honored and privileged. The feel
We
privileged to
will
be
talk.
here.
We will talk.
Yeah, man, we'll talk.
Yeah.
Respect and thanks for making this connection.
Yes. Oh,
Yes.
we love the pun.
All right.
All right.
Okay.
As we
Thanks.
close, yesterday I was talking about it. Tomorrow is a national day of mourning. The thing is to wear black.
Yes.
And it is about what's been happening with our children,
Yes.
especially what has happened with little Daniel Rowe. And so tomorrow is a national day of mourning. We encourage people to wear black. And I couldn't believe the amount of people have come on board. I think they should move it to a national day of repentance. That's just my take on it in terms of some of the things that have
Can you
happened.
mourn without repenting?
Well,
Let's talk
it's
about that
it.
on
Yeah,
our own time.
But that will happen. It's happening tomorrow all across this nation. And it's happening at, let me tell you where.
Mourn wherever you are.
But we're black.
But
That's
we're
what I
black,
realized,
and everyone
yeah.
will know that
Yeah.
we are in mourning.
Mourning.
I believe it's important. It is, and I believe there's a change going on. You see, in life, you
Yes.
can look at things and it's half full of empty. But I think there's a transformation taking. And let me tell you what is happening. I believe people are more and more understanding that it's us.
It's us. I love that.
Personally
It is us.
involved.
It's us.
It's not us versus
Personal.
them. It's
No,
all of us
it's
together.
all of us. And any change that's going to happen has to
Yeah,
come
man.
from us.
Us.
Yes.
Right.
Take
Amen.
Yes,
responsibility.
we can have people that we select, but and we hold them accountable. But
It's us. It's us. It's us.
Love it.
all right, thank you very
All
much.
right.
Thank
You're
you
most
very
welcome.
much.
Yeah.
Oh, please don't leave yet. Let me just thank the people online and on air. Thank you for journeying with us this morning. Free Flowing Thursday is always a day of surprises. And I hope you liked
I love that,
today's
free
surprise. Thank you, Mr. Producer, my co-host, my guest. And back in the studio, Lloydie, thank you. Have a wonderful weekend. We take our weekend starting today because we're not on air on Fridays. So, of course, we wish you a beautiful weekend. Thank you, Taki. And you have congratulations from one of our listeners online.
Oh,
He
yes,
says,
thank
I
you.
second your congratulations, Minette.
Yes, I appreciate that.
So
Much
thank you
appreciate
all.
that.
Have a great weekend.
Yes, blessings.
Percy, you're not telling us to.
And don't buck it up. See
All
you
right.
next week, Monday.
Thank you.